Hi there, this is Matt Curfman here from Richmond Brothers with a June 30th edition of Matt's Minutes. We are halfway into the year. That means we have another half to go, and there has been a lot of noise out there. The topic of this Matt's Minutes is an acronym that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. It's FOMO. What does that stand for? It stands for fear of missing out. So, a definition that I found about FOMO is it's the feeling or perception that others are having more fun, living better lives, or experiencing things better than you are. So, what does that actually mean? Who has FOMO? Well, a lot of times young children have FOMO. I don't have kids, but there are a lot of young kids running around the neighborhood I live in, and they jump from one thing to the next because they're always afraid they're missing out on fun. Who else has FOMO? I think this guy does. Come here, Oliver. Come here. I think this guy right here, Mr. Oliver, he has FOMO. He runs from one toy to the next or one stick to the next, and all because he thinks the next thing is going to be that much more fun and he just can't live without it. So, again, on this topic, I thought it was really relevant because you start to see some really extreme headlines out there. And I'll give you an example. Over the weekend, I was doing some research to prepare for this, and I found one headline that, according to BCA Research, they anticipate the second half of this year, in 2024, the S&P 500 to go into a recession, and they expect the market to drop 30% within the next 6 months. So I'm not sharing this out of fear. These are headlines that you probably are seeing as well. Now, in the same weekend, I saw another headline by another researcher, Tom Lee, and he actually talks about how he expects over the next 6 years the S&P 500 to triple from about 5,000 points to 15,000 points. These are two vastly different headlines. And then you say, what else is going on? Well, we had our first presidential debate. There's a lot of noise around what everyone thinks and feels there and the direction of the country. Lots of noise, lots of uncertainty. So I point this out because fear of missing out, and then you kind of tie it into the markets. I want to kind of show you a screenshot that I have here. It should be coming up on the screen now. I'll make this a little bit bigger. But what I did is January 1st through June 30th, I graphed the regular S&P 500, which is cap weighted, heavy in tech, that's purple. I graphed the NASDAQ, which is heavy in tech, which is blue. And you can see that year to date, the NASDAQ's up 18, the S&P equal weight, I'm sorry, their S&P price return is up 14.5%. Okay, that doesn't include dividends, but this just gives you a sense. Now you say, well, what else is going on out there? If you took all 11 sectors of the S&P 500, technology is one of 11, and you owned all 11 sectors equally, the equal weight index is up around 4%. Interesting. If you look at the Dow Jones is up 3.79%. And then if you go to bonds, most retirees have some bond exposure. Bonds are actually flat or negative, almost 1%. And so why is FOMO an important topic? Because all the headlines are talking about technology and AI. And we believe you should have some exposure to that. We don't believe your whole portfolio, your whole life savings should be tied so heavily to one sector. But you certainly should have some exposure to these, we believe, just not everything. So what is fear of missing out? As you see the headlines about technology and AI, how the world is changing and things are moving so fast, and why am I not earning 18%? Well, this same index in 2022 dropped 33%. So imagine if you were super concentrated, you only had technology, you had $1 million. In 2022, you dropped 33%. That means $1 million is now worth some like 600,000 to 700,000. Coming up 18% doesn't do much for you. So it's important to have balance. It's important to have stability. We want some of that. But with these headlines, the answer is who knows what's going to happen. In general, we still believe that inflation is still here, but it's not escalating worse and worse out of control. We do know that food and grocery and going out to eat prices are quite high. We know that fuel is quite high. And those are things that impact consumers and you and I every day, our monthly budgets. With the Fed, they have come out and said that inflation is getting under control, according to the most recent statement. So they're not looking to lower interest rates yet, which means we'll probably have a stable interest rate environment. If I had to guess, I would say we would have a stable interest rate environment leading up until elections, and then we'll see what happens post-November. Corporate earnings are still pretty strong. And then historically speaking, the second half of the year in a presidential election is always the better half. Now, we've had an atypical first 6 months where things are positive in a presidential election year. So history still suggests that trend should continue. Will it? Who knows? There's one strategist that says we're going to fall into recession in the next 6 months and market's going to drop 30%. There's another that says over the next 6 years, we're going to see the S&P 500 triple in value. So how do you thread that needle? How do you balance that? So we believe at Richmond Brothers very strongly in having broad market exposure, but also, especially for those that are near, in, or getting close to retirement, have some safety nets in place. So even when we own broad things like market exposure, can we have some safety nets in place? So those of you that have utilized our smoother ride strategies, and this is actually now eclipsing around 60 to 70% of accounts that we work with our clients on, we can have broad market exposure. We can have safety nets. It doesn't protect you from complete loss, but it does start to put some safety measures in place. If things start to drop too quickly, we basically decide we're going to get off that roller coaster. So that's one important thing I want to walk away with. We can understand what FOMO is, and we can say, how does it apply to us as adults and in our investments and in our retirement life? And I think it's happening a lot. Just because the NASDAQ's up 18%, that is not the expectation for your portfolio, unless you are super concentrated and you're willing to be at that high level of risk. So keep that in mind as we head into the summer. I hope that you all are enjoying your summer so far. We've had beautiful weather in Michigan for those of you that are in this area. And we will continue to try to help you cut through all of the noise this year, all of the election noise, and get down to a fundamental, simple approach to say what is happening, what should we expect, and are there strategies we can help you with to implement and overlay on your portfolio in the event of extreme headlines playing out. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions on a topic I mentioned in this video, just reply to this email that you received the video in, put in the subject safety nets, and one of our advisors can reach back out to you and we can review to make sure if you want those, you have those. If you don't have them, we can overview some thoughts and ideas to help you figure that out. So with that, I will tune out for now, and I'll be back in touch with more headlines. We appreciate our relationship with you and having the opportunity to serve you. Continue to have a great summer and have a happy July 4th Independence Day.